Hey everyone, it's Blake with FicheBait. In this video, I'm going to walk through how to configure just-in-time provisioning in Laserfiche Cloud using the Okta identity provider. Let's get started. So to start, there's a few things that you have to do in order to get the configuration going. The first is being able to configure single sign-on for Laserfiche Cloud. I've done that in a previous video with Okta. I'm also creating one for Entra, so be on the lookout for that. But you'll first need to walk through those videos in order to configure the single sign-on with your SAML identity provider. So here I'm in the Laserfiche Cloud account administration page, and you can see I've only got a couple of users. And if we go to the Settings tab, and then Identity Provider, you can see that I've configured my single sign-on for my identity provider. If I go to Provisioning, you can see I currently don't have just-in-time configured. And then if I go to Attribute Mappings, I have gone through and configured my mappings already as well. Please note, though, that in the videos that I've created for configuring the single sign-on, I did not configure groups. But you will need to configure groups in order for just-in-time provisioning to work. So let me walk through how that's done real fast. So I'm going to switch over to my Okta admin console. And in the admin console, I'm going to go into Directory and then Groups. And here you can see I have a few different groups. The main ones that we're going to look at is the repository only, and I have forms of administrators as well. If I go to repository only, you can see I've added a couple users. You can also, you'll need to create a group by clicking add group. You can name it whatever you want. And then once you're in that group, you'll need to assign that group to your application. So my application in Okta is called Laserfiche Cloud. That's just what I ended up naming it. You can name it whatever you want in yours, but that does have to be associated with the group. Okay, so now if I come down to my applications, and I go to my Laserfiche Cloud applications, and I'm going to go to the General tab. So on the General tab, all of this should be configured already. That should have been done in the previous video. You will see that underneath provisioning, it is set to none. And then when I go to sign on, if I scroll down a little, we come down to attribute statements. This has changed since the first video I did with Okta. But if you click this little drop down, it'll show you legacy configuration for attributes. They have a new way of doing attributes, so if you want to learn how to do that, you'll need to read through the documentation. So from here, because I did it the old way, I'm going to click on Edit, and underneath Group Attribute Statements, I'm going to type in Groups as the name. The name format can be basic, and then I'm only using the repository only configuration for this, so that's the group that I'm passing in. So I just put that in, and then you can click Save. And that's really all you need to do in order for the group claim to work. So if we come back to Laserfiche Cloud, underneath attribute mappings for the group, you would just name it the same thing. So here I have groups, right? And that's what I named this group attribute. So you want those to match. Okay, so once you have that, what you would want to do is, again, if I come over to my users tab, and notice I've only got 2 users configured, we do need to create what's called federated groups. So the federated groups are basically linking the groups from your identity provider, in this case Okta, with groups in Laserfiche Cloud. So here you can see repository only and super users. Repository only should look familiar. And if I go to my Groups tab, I have a repository only group there as well. Now they don't have to be named the same, but it definitely helps keep it straight if you can. but you're basically mapping these. So back on the Federated Groups tab, if I look at repository only, you'll notice that I'm saying that the Federated Group identifier, so this should match what's in Okta, is going to map to the repository only group that was back on my Groups tab. So we're just linking them together. So you do need to make sure that that is configured first, that you have that mapping in place. And then once you have that, you can go to Settings, back to Identity Provider, and then we'll go to Provisioning. Now, if I click on Just in Time, you'll notice that it says, hey, you're not going to be able to see the configuration options basically until you click Save. So come down here, click Save Changes. And you'll see that a few things of mine are already configured. So your federated groups will come down in here, right? So I've got repository only and super users. So again, those are mapped because I had mapped those previously underneath users federated groups. The other thing that you can do is click on add a new rule. And now you can associate one of those federated groups with a license type. So depending on what type of licenses you have, you'd see those in the list here. I'm going to choose full. You can add multiple licensing rules if you want to. So just make sure that you have them in order though, because they are in priority. So if you have a user that is in multiple federated groups, the user will be assigned the license that is part of the higher priority or first group rule. So that first one takes priority. So once you have that, you can save your changes. Down here at the bottom, you'll see for troubleshooting, there's detailed error reporting. You should only turn that on if you're having issues with users successfully signing in. That will give you more details in your reporting for that sign-in, and then turn it off when you're done troubleshooting. Okay, so now that I have that, if I come back to Okta and we look at people, you will notice that I have a user here with a specific email address. That user does not exist in my cloud, my Laserfiche Cloud instance. And if I look at them, they are part of the repository only group. So because of that, they are able to take on the Laserfiche Cloud application. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to sign in as that new user that, again, is not in Laserfiche Cloud currently, and it should automatically create the account for that user and assign the license for them. So I'm going to go ahead and open up an in private window. We will browse out to Cloud. You will notice that because we configured single sign-on, we get this sign in with SAML button. I'm going to click on that. Okay, it's going to ask for my credentials. I have some saved credentials here. If this is the first time that you are doing this, your option here will be a little bit different. You'll actually be asked to set up the Okta authentication app for this specific user. So your end users would see that. They would need to download it to their phones, right? And then be able to scan the barcode and add it to their Okta app. So I'm going to go ahead and say enter a code. And then I'm opening up my Okta app, which you can't see, but entering my code in, and then it'll ask for the password. We'll verify. And then because this is a new user in Laserfiche, it's going to come up and have me agree to the privacy notice, allowing them to be able to email me, right? So I'm going to check those and click accept. And it now logged me into Laserfiche Cloud. If I go back to my list of users and refresh, you can now see that that user has been added and they have a full license because they were part of that user, that licensing rule in order to get the license type. So pretty cool. It's real easy to add just-in-time configuration, as you can see. Be aware that with just-in-time configuration, though, Okta does not push the users to Laserfiche Cloud, right? That's a little bit different. So it's as the person logs in, the user account is created, they are assigned the license type in the groups based on what's configured in Okta. If you want the users to be automatically pushed to Laserfiche Cloud when they are added to Okta to specific groups, that would use skim provisioning. And I have another video on that as well on my YouTube channel. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was easy to follow along. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Let me know what questions you have or what other videos you'd like to see on Laserfiche Cloud. And until next time, keep phishing.